Thank you. We're ready. You can hear me? Okay. All right, gentlemen. I'm going to call to order the Wednesday, May 19th, 2021 Garrison Board of Education regular meeting. Dusty, will you call the roll, please?
Jocelyn Aposello.
Here.
David Gelber.
You have to do the mic.
James Hope.
Excuse?
Here.
Courtney McCarthy.
Oh, right. Here.
Kent Schott.
Here.
Matthew Spicer.
Here.
Sarah Tormey.
Here. All right. All rise for the pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. First item up on the agenda this evening, we have ratify results of budget vote and board elections. I'm going to begin with reading the recommended action. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby ratifies and accepts the voting results of the annual budget vote and board election canvassed on May 18, 2021 as follows. Proposition 1. Shall the sum of $11,692,487 be appropriated to meet the estimated expenditures of the Garrison Union Free School District for school purposes for the fiscal year July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, and the necessary tax be levied for same upon the taxable property of the school district, after first deducting the monies available from state aid and other sources. Yes, 185, no, 61. Board candidate votes received. Kent Schott, 161. Ned P. Roush, 117. David Gelber, 178. Courtney McCarthy, 178. Madeline Julian, 191. Kent Schott is elected to a one-year term commencing May 19, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Madeline Julian is elected to a three-year term commencing on July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. David Gelber is elected to a three-year term commencing on July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. Courtney McCarthy is elected to a three-year term commencing on July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Nays? Abstentions? Okay, you guys have it. Thank you all. We will now move on to administer the oath of office. Dusty, will you administer the oath of office to our new member, Ken Schott, please?
Yes. Mr. Schott, you would take your microphone, and I have your oath of office printed there for you. If you can read that aloud, please.
I, Kent Schott, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the Board of Education member of the Garrison Union Free School District for the period from May 19th, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. We'll have you sign here. Thank you. Congratulations. Welcome. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Okay. I know it is a little unusual to have a new member join us in May. However, this seat was filled due to a resignation. So we had someone filling it in until the election, and now we have Kent, and then we will start again with a new slate and the new year. Okay. Next, we move on to the appointment to Facilities Committee. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby appoints Madeline Julian as community member to the Facilities Committee effective May 19th, 2021 through June 30th, 2021. May I have a motion, please?
So, second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Nays? Abstentions? Okay, thank you. Madeline, thank you for being willing to continue your service on the Facilities Committee until July 1st. We appreciate your work. Okay, next up, President's remarks. I'll be very brief. First, I want to thank the voters in Garrison for supporting the school budget. We appreciate you all coming out to vote yesterday. Next, and then I'd also like to welcome Kent, our new member. We're very pleased to have you. And a couple quick other updates. The Audit Committee is seeking a community member. This is posted on the website. We have a current community member, and we're looking to have 2 on the Audit Committee. These are 2-year terms. If you'd like further information, the deadline to send a letter of interest is May 28th. Please send it to the district clerk. Thank you. Also, the Garrison Children's Education Fund has a grant deadline coming up on June 1st. So if you are interested in learning more, please visit gsef.net. All right, promise to keep that brief. And now I will hand it over to Carl.
Okay, sure. I also welcome Kent.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you, and congratulations to our 3 incumbent board members, Madeline, David, and Courtney, who are with us for 3-year terms. And also a big thank you to our community for supporting this budget. I recognize that it's a big ask when we ask people to increase their taxes, but to support our students with high quality education. I think it's a great day here in Garrison, and I look forward to the work ahead. This afternoon I had a wonderful opportunity to join one of our 6th grade classes on the Clearwater Sloop. We went out sailing over the Hudson, and what a day to go out over the Hudson. But I must say it was an incredible educational experience for our children, made possible by the generosity of GSEF, and organized by one of our teachers, Robin Waters, who put a tremendous amount of energy into it. Our current 6th grade students missed the opportunity last school year due to the school closure. So we had 6th grade and 5th grade. There was one more cohort attending tomorrow, but the program was incredible. They learned about history, they learned about environmental education, and it was just an amazing experience. So again, thank you to GSEF. Also, my third update is that with the budget passing, we have 2 exciting new positions in the budget. One is an environmental education teacher to work with grades K through 8. That job has been posted. There's been a really strong response, and we have quality candidates. We already did first rounds of interviews, so we are moving on to committee interviews next week, and we are excited and expect to have a candidate recommended to the board by the June 16th meeting. In a similar way, the Director of Technology and Instructional Support also was posted. There also was a very strong response to that position. We are almost complete with screening interviews, and the first week of June, we will have committee interviews, and also we expect to have a recommendation to the board by June 16th. So stay tuned, and we look forward to bringing on 2 dynamic and competent and exciting educators. And the sense that I get is that we will have high quality people here to start the school year next year. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Carl. Do you have questions for Carl this evening? Okay. We shall move on to board communications and presentations. We have a capital project update with Tetra Tech, our architects. Thank you and welcome to an in-person meeting. I haven't seen you all in a while, so we appreciate you coming out tonight. Yeah, I think that would be best.
So I'm going to break with the rules for 1 second because I want you to see my smiling face. David, Matt, Courtney, Sarah, Carl, Dusty, Kent, we haven't met. I'm Garrett, Jocelyn, and Joe. Congratulations. We started this journey in 2015, And we're really happy to say we had great bid results. I'm sure you all know that. I'm not going to steal any more thunder from Eric, but I just want to say how awesome it is to be at this point, because all those years ago it was a dream and a challenge. Oh, and Madeline, we should say your name too, because your involvement was so important in this design phase. So congratulations, and with that, Eric.
Great. I guess I'm vaccinated as well. Can I take this off too, or do you guys mind? But okay, it's just easier to enunciate and pronounce things. Dusty, if you could bring that up to the spreadsheet, that'd be great. As Garrett said, we were very pleased with the bid results. The first thing was the turnout. We got 9 GC bids, 4 mechanical contractor bids, 5 plumbing bids, and 7 electrical bids. So we were really surprised. Things have changed. I used to see everybody's face at the walkthrough, a lot of people bidding remotely. But a lot of them who were bidding remotely also came by and scheduled a visit. And Michael Tuardi was very helpful to allow people to tour the building and get their exposure to the site. So we got some excellent bids, and we're already started with scope reviews. We've already done 2 of the 6 reviews we're planning to do. So we're in a really good place with the bid reviews. As Garrett said, the most important thing is the numbers. So what you're seeing here is a summary of the low bids, the GC being the first bid, which I'll just briefly go through the numbers, then we'll look at how they compare with the budget next. Also, one thing you're all aware of is there are a number of alternates that we've broken out to make sure that no matter how the bids came in, we'd be able to award a project, have a viable project, because the risk of not doing so is just too much to have faced. So we really appreciate your cooperation and involvement in developing those bid alternates and bearing with us as and I know that process is uncomfortable, so we're glad to say that we are in a better position than we had feared, and we're hopefully discuss that with you tonight and be on the same page. So the first bid is Meyer Contracting. They're the GC bid for around $3 million for their base bid, and then there are 5 alternates. The HVAC bid is Clean Air Quality for the base bid, or Bertucci for the combined bid. It's an interesting thing when you have multiple alternates. Sometimes the lowest bidder for the base project will change by the time you get to adding all the alternates. So that's what happened in this case. If we award all the alternates, it will be Bertucci. If we award only the base bid, it would be Clean Air Quality. Total Construction is the plumbing contractor, and Hudson Valley Electrical is the electrical contractor. So we're very pleased with all of those bids. Let me just move on to the sort of summary here. So last time we talked about budgets with you, Dusty, if you could move on to the next one. We were in a much more concerned situation. We were over $500,000 over budget, and we were concerned about will we be able to award with contingency? Will we be able to have, what will cost escalation do? We had a number of concerns about how this project fit into the year and where contractors were with their other construction. So, and material orders and so forth was a concern. Looking at these bids, so let's look at where we were at that point. We have a total project amount of $9.9 million, all in. That's what was approved. That's where the project is. As far as what we can afford to spend. We can't go over that without going back to the voters, which is not desirable. And at that point, when we met with you in March, we were looking at a total project amount, of over $10.2 million, if everything came in as we were concerned. Now looking at all of the base bids, the base bid project total is less than $6 million, and our original budget was $7.2. So the bids for base bid is about $1 million under where it had to be awardable. And then when we look at all the alternates for the project, they total about $1 million, $1.2 million. So the total is 7.17, and the budget is 7.2. So we are about $35,000 under budget with all alternates awarded for this project. So that's why Garrett and I are smiling. That's why we don't want to wear our masks, because we are very pleased. And I think you should be pleased too. It was really a team effort to get this done. So thank you very much for all your hard work. I think it really paid off in this event. So just discussing the bids a little bit more detail. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just going to break for a quick thank you for all of your hard work on that. And to clarify, just because I know many of the people on the facilities committee are very familiar with this process, but we can award, as long as we're awarding the alternate with the base bid, we can go for the lowest one, even if the other base bid was lower, correct? It's the combined total.
Right.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Right.
Sorry
Well,
to interrupt.
while we're asking or saying things, congrats. It's great to get bids, especially that are going to be on budget. But of course, as someone who's not on the facilities committee, so pardon me, how do you feel about these particular bidders? Like, so we have to go with the lowest responsible bid. How have you worked with them? What are your thoughts on it?
Okay, well, we have worked with most of these bidders. So let me go back to that page again, which had the names there. Meyer is a contractor that's well known in this region, has done a lot of work both with Tetra and with our office and other regards. So we're very familiar with them, and we have not met with them yet. So we're doing two things right now. Our office is going through the reference checking and the evaluation of the bid and the status of the company, because it's not only how they've done in the past, but it's looking at their current situation. So we want to make sure we're comfortable with where they are. Have they bitten off more than they can chew? This year, where are they in terms of what contracts have they already awarded? Been awarded this year? What kind of manpower do they have? So we want to make sure that this job is going to get the focused attention it deserves. So that's part of the process. And as I said, we started that today. We opened the bids on Wednesday, and we started that today. And we've already talked to two of them, and we're going to talk to the remainder of them tomorrow.
Great.
So the two we talked to today were Hudson Valley Electrical, who I'm not familiar with, but you guys have worked with a number of times, and others in the district have worked with before. And we were very impressed with their scope review. And the other one we met with today was Bertucci. And they've done a lot of work in this area and are well known. So we're confident that they have the ability to deliver the project. Obviously, it will require a coordinated effort to manage everything. And this is a straightforward project, but the phasing and there's challenges. So we want to make sure these contractors can play together as a team. And so far, it seems very positive.
The next step is we'll go back to committee, correct, to the facilities committee to review prior to coming for...
Yeah, we have a meeting scheduled for next week. So, but we're hoping by tomorrow to have completed all of the face-to-face reviews. So that's our plan. Okay, so just since not all of you are on the facilities committee, just to sort of discuss these bids a little bit closer, could you go to the next slide? Yeah, this one here, where we have, so as you may recall, we have the 4 contracts, construction contracts. We also have 2 material orders or 2 vendors that you guys are working with directly. One of those is Edutech, and they've worked with the district before, and they're providing the telephones, data communications, and security systems. They were not publicly bid, but they were purchased off a state contract. So that price has been known. We've gone through the scope. Tetra Tech and the district has walked through with them and evaluated what's involved in their contract. And so we've had that number for a while. But we were not willing to award that number until we had the whole picture, until we actually said go to them. So that's another decision the board will have to approve that decision to do. The next manufacturer on that list is Train. So one of the decisions that was made early on was to break the equipment out from the mechanical contract directly so that we could better control the delivery. So Tetra Tech has worked with Train to determine exactly what units and when they're going to be there. We've already reviewed, actually 2 rounds of shop drawing reviews have been finalized and approved with Train. They're just waiting for us to pull the trigger to start the order. So unlike the situation where you're starting with a fresh contractor, we haven't gotten submittals back. We're about a month or 2 ahead of that curve in terms of ordering that equipment, which is the longest lead time. So we've suddenly jumped ahead of a lot of other school districts and other contractors because we already have equipment that's been fully designed and is ready to be ordered and start the fabrication. So we're in a really good place. And they're also have agreed with us in sort of an on-demand delivery. So you guys have the bus garage facility where you're going to make space to store the mechanical equipment, which is going to be delivered per our phasing schedule. So it's going to arrive, our mechanical contractor is going to unload it and prepare it and then install it right per our schedule. So we're really hoping for a very seamless and smooth delivery because often especially in this recent year and a half, the deliveries from subcontractors and deliveries from trades, have been the sticking point. You get a sub and they get a number, and then the sub says, well, that was the time frame, the lead time when we talked to you, but now it's gone from 12 weeks to 16 weeks. That's been dealt with. So we're very pleased because that's a critical component of this project, which has already been, it's in the works. So we're really pleased with that aspect as well. So that's where those numbers are broken out. So the Edutech number would be part of the electrical work, and the train number would typically be part of the mechanical contract, but all those broken out together come to the 7.17, which is under the 7.2 budget. So again, we're in a really good situation. If there's any questions, we can also go back to this. So the next piece of this is the schedule. Another aspect
okay,
of...
Before you go on to schedule. So this all sounds so positive. What's something that you're concerned about?
I couldn't understand it, sorry.
It's the stupid mask. So this all sounds very positive. Is there anything that you're concerned about that isn't going so swimmingly?
I'll start that.
Go ahead.
So,
Oh dear.
this is a really great moment. We're in excellent shape, but we are also starting construction. And so, listen, I worry about everything. I'm the guy that brought all these worries to the table, and alternates and all that stuff. So, construction is like walking into the labor and delivery room. Okay, it's a battle, and so there are going to be challenges all along the way. And so this is a great moment. Everybody should be really happy, but we've got a lot of construction to do, and it's going to be hard construction. And so it will require patience. It will require a lot of coordination. So it's those things, Jocelyn, that I worry about because, the contractors, we're hoping they're all going to work together and play nicely. Sometimes people do things that you don't expect or you wish they didn't. We have very good documents. We have good power to force contractors to do the things that need to be done. So I'm confident in that. But we're entering into construction, so I have a lot of worries. We've got to win the next big battles here, and then a year and a half from now, we'll all have ice cream again. So yeah.
Well, I think you guys have shown a lot of willingness. Oh, go ahead.
I just was going to ask, I'm sorry, I'm obviously new to the table tonight, so the alternate bid below in Bertuzzi, the line item for 582 under play field, can you go back one slide?
Yeah.
One more.
Go back one. So there's an alternate line item for 582. Is that the middle school HVAC bid from Clean Air Quality? Okay. And so the alternate bid from Bertucci is actually lower? Is that, can you I'm not as familiar. Can you explain the alternate
Correct.
bid here?
Well, you recall as I was mentioning that sometimes the alternate award will switch the order of the bidders because the alternates could be lower. So in this case, that's correct. That alternate for Clean Air Quality of 582 is their bid for the middle school mechanical systems. And that was about where we expected it to be in the $500,000 range, which is why we talked about it as an alternate early on. Bertucci's alternate, so if you compare the base bids, Clean Air Quality is at $1,179,800, and Bertucci's at $1,268,268. So they're higher base bid, but when you take the alternate bid of $300 flat versus $582, now their bid total is $1,568,000 versus $1,762,000.
So is the middle school HVAC an optional project? Is that why we're judging?
It wasn't that it was optional. Like I was saying, in March when we met, we were really concerned.
Okay.
We didn't know about the bid market. We didn't know how the season would play out. We didn't know where we would be at this point. So we wanted to make sure that no matter what, we had a project we could deliver. So you guys were willing to put that out there, not because it was ever something we didn't want to do, but it was something that we thought would be an option to make sure that no matter what, we could award. And the idea there, we actually extended the duration of that alternate to make sure that we could even award it during construction if we had the ability to do so.
Okay.
So as I said, all the alternates in this project can be awarded, and we're still under budget based on the original budget.
So there's one One other thing I'd like to add to, when we were having the conversation about alternates, sometimes contractors are looking for additional work, and so they'll give you a better price on the alternate. And in this situation, it turned out to be true, that the way they viewed the alternate was more competitive than their other competitors, and so you could see this as getting best value out of the alternate. And Dominic Calgi has said that a number of different times, that sometimes alternates work to your advantage. In this situation, I think it probably did.
Okay.
Courtney?
So, just a question of, once you go through the process of awarding the bid, and construction starts, can the price change? Are they locked in at this? Can they suddenly go, oh, you know what, everything's really expensive, we've got to raise it to another $25,000?
No.
This is it?
That's it. There's a bid bond to make sure they hold their price. There's a performance and payment bond that locks them in. They have a bond, it really is, the public bidding process really locks them in. Now, it doesn't mean that's the only cost you're going to incur. There will be discovery. This is a renovation project. Mm-hmm. So this gets back to the discussion of contingency. If you want to change the slide to the next one, it's really important to have a 10% contingency so that as we do abatement work and we discover walls with more abatement or spaces we didn't think about, or even sometimes there's other areas of renovation that you decide you need to work on. Since we're here, we're working, could you just fix this too? So sometimes you actually voluntarily decide for more scope as it seems appropriate during the time. You discover conditions. This floor is not in as good a shape as we thought, and we're going to ask for that sort of thing. So looking at the pricing again, in our budget we had a contingency of allowance of $720,912, but with this award, we have a $720,000 contingency plus the bottom right-hand corner, $149,000 of leftover budget, which just basically is even more contingency. So we have over $860,000 worth of contingency where we were only expecting to have $720,000. So we're in a very favorable position for whatever we encounter on the project. But in terms of the bids and contracts, those are locked in. And more than that, the GC contract includes unit prices for additional work that Tetra Tech didn't show, but what might be necessary, additional abatement, additional quantities, which will act as an allowance for the project. If we don't need that work, the district will get that money back. So we're actually in a very favorable position. And similarly with electrical contract, that contract involves trenching for a new electrical service, and there's a rock allowance. If we hit rock, we're covered. If we don't hit rock, we have the money back. So we're in a very favorable position on all those items.
So how might the process or the project be affected, if at all, by the pandemic? Are you concerned at all about any possible ways in which it could create problems for you?
Well, it's always a challenge. Obviously, if the numbers change and things change, we're all subject to that. So, but at this point, these contractors have been working with it for over a year. And honestly, by this time, well, actually, not by this time, but by midsummer last year, contractors had sort of adjusted. They'd made the adjustment. A lot of them, it had worked through. So in terms of their operations, we haven't seen a lot of changes, a lot of impacts. They just wear masks now, and they just get their work done, and they show up. They've been very dedicated, and we haven't had a concern. We don't have a concern with these. It's not even a topic that we were discussing because it's just become normal. I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit too. So one of the things that we're experiencing in the construction marketplace now is lead times on materials. And that very well could come into play, David. As a direct result of the pandemic, a lot of manufacturers decreased their production, sort of forecasting lower needs. Now all of a sudden we're in a bit of a boom, and so we're seeing we don't have on this job we don't have roof shingles, but we're seeing 8 months for roof shingles, for instance. So we'll probably experience some of that along the way. Maybe casework. We expect it to be here in a certain time, so the cabinetry in the classroom. you know, those kinds of things maybe we'll have to deal with. It's not coming on time, so it's, you know, those will be the inconveniences that we'll have to deal with. So there won't be any cost increases associated with that. So if a contractor says, look, lumber went up, to your point, they're not due any extra cost for that. But there may be things that are out of their control that they're just like, look, I've done everything I can and I can't get this material in time. Flooring's another good example of that. We've got a lot of flooring in this job. And so getting it here on time could be a factor. So those are just some of the things that are directly related to the pandemic and that may impact us along the way.
Let me just mention something with regard to phasing in that regard. If you recall, we made the decision early on to sort of push the kindergarten space and the music space back, thinking that we might end up starting late this summer, but we ended up not starting late this summer because SED basically got the work done. They reviewed the project in a timely manner, and we were able to bid it, and here we are, and we're about to talk about schedule. But one of the good things about the way we phase this project is it's a 2-summer through the school year project. So all those issues that Garrett's talking about will prevent us from getting these materials potentially by September if we had wanted them. But that's where most of the school district work and most of all these things are that's when their deadline is. But we don't have a deadline like that. We have work that's going to finish in October, work that's going to finish in December, work that's going to finish in February, and work that's going to finish next summer. So we're in a very advantageous position as long as you're not, I mean, again, it gets back to the nature of how you guys are as a district and what a pleasure it is to work with a district that's willing to say, okay, we understand it's construction and we really want our kids to be safe. We want to make sure we have the spaces we need for classwork, but it's okay if we have bare floors for a little while. We're going to have classrooms that are going to be used for the first phase that aren't going to have cabinetry in them. They're going to be demo classrooms, 2 of them, 24 and 25 over there, that you're going to be using, which are not going to look pretty for that first phase. But again, we've already factored that in and talked about it. So with that type of flexibility, these schedule delays are just going to flow in. The bigger ones are the mechanical units and the switchgear and things of that nature. And in the case of the mechanical units, as I said, we're in a good situation. The switchgear, that is a worry. And we always worry about those things. But that's construction, and that's why you have us here to worry for you all the time.
Did you want to review the schedule next, or are we? Yeah, please. Yep. Well, while we're waiting for that to load, here we go. Okay.
I just want to say thank you, and this is great. Is there a chance maybe whoever's around at some point in those demo classrooms could come into the class and talk with the kids for 20 or 30 minutes about what they're seeing and why it will affect people for them?
Absolutely. I just was talking with Carl before the meeting that we're going to do a staff presentation next week, but I offered to do a student presentation. It could be school-wide if you want to do that. We really want to involve the kids in the process. This is something very unique, very exciting, and to share the process with them and all of the dynamics that go on is super valuable. We could be generating the next engineers and architects right here in town. So that'll be fun, and we'll definitely do that.
Okay, so this is sort of a highlights of the schedule. We're not going into detail, but we can go into more detail if you want to. And the facilities committee next week is going to go into more of the nitty-gritty on these things. So Wednesday, 5/18 was the bid opening, and the scope review began yesterday and today, as I said. And then June 2nd, I think, is when you're scheduled to have the award. We'll be ready. I think at this point we're in good shape to be ready before the facilities committee meeting, and it looks like we're in good shape. So. We might want to make sure we had a buffer there, but we don't know if we're going to need a buffer based on what we've seen so far. We're like things are good, but we have that time if we need it. So with the award on the 2nd, the contractors are right off the bat required to start with their contracts, their insurance, and their submittal process. So we wrote in the documents. Within 7 days of notice of award, the GC is going to submit their abatement and demolition submittals. so they can post the building and begin the abatement process right when school gets out. So we're primed to do that. Everything is in good shape to begin construction on Monday the 28th, or as soon as you guys give us the building after students are out, we're ready to go. And they're ready, they're eager. The first question for both these contractors today was, can we accelerate the schedule? So that's the kind of question we like to get at the bid scope review. So we'll hopefully be able to give them opportunities to do that. Then through the summer, after the demolition and abatement phase is completed, there's renovation beginning, but again, we're not delivering a lot of completed spaces at the start of the school year. But the district is able to get back into the building and begin occupying teaching spaces by the end of August. So there'll be a couple weeks there where teachers can get into the spaces that have been under construction. Obviously, the other spaces that were not in construction are not going to be questioned, but in terms of the spaces that were under construction, they can get back in those on the 30th of August. And then the school year is scheduled to begin a little later this year, which is September 9th, as you all know. And at that point, if you recall, the phasing plans were developed. There will be certain areas of the building where the classrooms are going to be, doors are closed, and you're not going to be using those 4 classrooms or those 5 classrooms at the start of school. We've already gone through that. That will be the first phase. And during that time, contractors are going to be working after hours to do their work. The ceilings are going to be open in some of the hallways. The floors are going to be off, and it's not going to look pretty everywhere, but all the spaces are going to be safe, occupiable, and usable. And at that point, they're going to be working on casework, the first round of casework, and the mechanical completion for the spaces which are being renovated in October. So that's the first phase. And then we're going to move around the elementary school wing into December, and into the older part of the building into December and in January. And then, in spring, we have kind of orchestrated a lull where we could have another phase or we could not. So we have a phasing construction throughout the school year where the contractors are working after hours, and this will enable them to be very efficient, because often with school districts where you can't give them spaces, they have to clean up every day. So they get a couple hours of work done, and then they have to go and clean. These contractors, both the ones we talked to today, confirmed with us that they had already included in their bid all the after hours work. And as Garrett was saying, it's part of what made this project that we think attractive to them, because they have their crews. And when summer comes over, they have to find out what to do with their crews. And this is a job which they can use to bring people to keep them busy through the winter time, through the fall and the winter season. So that's what's going to be happening. Again, we've made it very clear, and part of why we're here, this is a school first. And safety and the ability to have your curriculum, to have your students with all their activities during the school year is our priority. And these people understand that. These contractors, we know them, and they do schoolwork all the time. So this is nothing new to them either. So we're all working together to make sure that your priorities are met. And they have the calendar for the school events already in their bid, and they know what's coming. So that said, come June of next year, we have the summer again, and this point, they've had the full year to prepare, to do all the behind-the-scenes work, hit the ground running, do any remaining work, and complete this project. So we're going to be in great shape. We expect that time frame next summer. All the lead time issues will have been dealt with. All the procurement, everything will be here, and it will be about completing mechanical systems and doing the commissioning to make sure everything's fine-tuned so the systems are working properly, and doing training and so forth. So it's going to be, next summer is going to be more construction, but of a different nature. And the spaces that we couldn't get to during the school year, that's when we'll be opening up. That's when we will construct the lift down from the kindergarten space down, and the music space. The art room will be completed during the school year, but there'll be other spaces that will be completed, and all the casework and so forth will be done at that time. So, and the main entrance. We're not, and again, the contractors may ask us, we may come to you and say, hey, they really want to do the main entrance now. We'll have these discussions with them, and we'll be deciding those things. But right now, the main entry is scheduled for next summer so that you guys are not disrupted, and your admin staff can work through the school year without being disturbed. So we'll have the discussion if they want to advance it. And then substantial completion is at the start of September in 2022. So we're exactly on schedule, we're exactly on or under budget, and very positive picture all around. So if you have any questions, we're happy to discuss them.
Before I open up for questions, I want to thank Matt, the chair of our facilities committee, David and Madeline, who've been working on this committee to get us to this point. I also want to thank Joe and Carl, because I know you guys reached out to a lot of contractors you've worked with in previous districts, and I think that really helped as well. And thank you guys for reaching out to all of your contacts and getting us to this place in the budget. So with my thanks out of the way, does anyone else have any questions or thoughts regarding this presentation? I'll send them to Matt if you do for the facilities committee meeting next week, please. Okay. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David back to Mike. Okay. So with that, that concludes our discussion of the capital project update. And we move on to a discussion for a July board retreat. I'll just start with when we originally looked at the calendar, we had one listed as a placeholder for July 17th. I wanted to outline that a little bit further as to what our plans were, confirm it. This is not the joint one we're discussing with Haldane. That is still set for September. But on July 17th, what I'm going to propose is a roles and responsibilities workshop, again with our legal counsel, similar to what we did last year, hoping maybe we could do that in person this year with counsel. A couple other topics we may want to ask counsel to cover. So we will, if you have any other thoughts or topics you want counsel to address, please let me know. And then we also wanted to look at doing another book group. So if anyone has book recommendations for us to all read again as a board and come back and discuss for an hour, things that are inspiring to you within the world of curriculum, within some of the environmental science education, things that connect to our project. I invite Carl, Joe, anyone to send ideas, send them to me, and then we can discuss and perhaps select one or two. We're going to keep it to one or two. And then Carl had an interesting idea as well to bring in perhaps a guest speaker. I don't know if you want to touch on that briefly.
Yes, sure. I would just mention that the Bridges program in Oceanside School District, Long Island, was brought to my attention by Jocelyn, who did some research and read about it. I did outreach to the superintendent there, who referred me to the chair of the social studies department, who was very generous in offering to meet with us, to even mentor us if we were interested in this program. It's a pretty impressive program where they are partnering with a neighboring district and having conversations around equity, around diversity, and done in a way where they're supported. There was a facilitator from a local university helping them with the program, but Oceanside is getting calls from across the nation about this program because it is something very innovative and exciting, and I think it is something that potentially would be a really good fit for Garrison. So, Sarah, yes, if that's something that the board would like to add to the retreat, I could find out if the administration from Oceanside would be willing to speak with all of us.
So that's what we have sketched out so far, the roles and responsibilities, the book group, and the guest speaker. I invite anyone to share their thoughts on this for the July 17th retreat. Then I'll jump at once.
Thanks for doing that outreach to Oceanside. And I would say, I knew about it from attending some training, some NISBA trainings, but perhaps either if you have something, like the article you shared with, they shared with you, or if you would like me to send it to everyone so you know what the program actually is before they come, I'd be happy to share anything or.
I think we're going to get that dropped into the board update section.
Great.
So everyone can
Okay,
see.
perfect.
That's a great idea. Any other thoughts? Okay. You'll all be here July 17th, right?
You'll hunt us down if we're not.
Okay, very good. So
heard Europe
What-
opened up to visitors who are vaccinated, so maybe we could just do it over there. Sure.
You all want to go to Europe?
Yeah, sounds good.
That sounds,
When would you like book recommendations or book ideas, if anybody has one?
that's a great question. If we could get the book ideas in before the next meeting, that would be great. And we'll try and set some books on the 2nd to talk about, and that'll give us time to get them ordered and sent to all the members so that we are set for the retreat. So whatever, thinking within what we're looking at for our planning committee, what would fit within that, that would be great. Looking at you, David, I'm sure you have ideas. All right, great. Dusty, you can go ahead and make sure that's added to the schedule, that July 17th one. Got it. Great. Thank you. Okay. And now we're going to move on then to financial reports. We have the claims auditor report for April 2021 on here. I'm not seeing, give me just a second, I'm sorry. I'm not seeing a resolution, Dusty, with the claims auditor report.
You can just make a motion to accept.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. May I have a motion to accept the claims auditor report as presented, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, do I have any questions on the claims auditor report for, our claims auditor is not with us, but I'm sure Joe can speak to them if anyone has any questions for the April 2021 report.
Joe, I would just ask, are you concerned about the findings that they had, or are they addressed?
I am not. A few of the findings were because of the health services contract. And typically, the health services contract as well as the bill are sent all in one package. And then the district can't do anything about making an order, a purchase order for them until the board approves them.
Okay.
So while we do have a bill that predates the purchase order, it isn't like we could pay it. So
And so and the others are fine, you're not worried? Okay.
I'm not.
Thank you.
Do I have any other questions? Okay, I'm going to move to a vote then. All in favor of accepting the claims auditor report as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions?
I'll abstain on this. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Thank you.
Third thing.
We'll get you up to speed soon. Treasurer's report for April 2021. May I have a motion, please, to accept the treasurer's report as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Joe, do you want to speak to this treasurer's report at all? Do you have any comments?
I do not have any comments about the treasurer's report.
Does anyone have any questions for Joe?
No.
On the report as presented? Okay. I'm going to move to a vote then. All in favor of accepting the report as presented, please say aye.
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 Nays? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to the minutes. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby accept the minutes of the regular meeting of May 5th, 2021, and the minutes of special meeting of May 17th, 2021. Have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the minutes before I move on? Okay, great. Let's do a vote. All in favor of accepting the minutes? Say aye.
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 Nays? Abstentions? Okay. Now move on to the consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of Carl L. Albano, Superintendent, hereby approves the items of the personnel consent agenda as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Carl, do you want to speak to the consent agenda?
Sure, there's just one item, and that is the resignation of a substitute teacher, Kaylee Warren, who served this year. She did a great job in our special education department. That assignment ended, and she is leaving for a permanent teaching position, and we are very happy for her, and we thank her for her service.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Okay, moving on, we now have old business. This evening, we have a second reading and approval of policy 7580, equity, diversity, and inclusion. We'll read the recommended action first, and then we'll open it up for discussion. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby adopt policy 7580, equity, diversity, and inclusion as amended. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Now, we had some comments and discussion on this, so I want to see if anyone had any thoughts that they wish to share during this reading of the policy. And perhaps, Courtney, do you want to speak to some of the changes as our chair of the policy committee?
Sure, I'm refreshing myself now over it. Most of the changes we made were simply after review with council to be careful about language and of what was going into the policy. And as per usual, we rely on the great advice of our council. And when they suggest something, we usually go with it. But other than that, we've read it. The one change I've got that I'd like to that I'm curious about is in page 4 at the very bottom, equity policy communication. We struck the first several lines. But there is a note about, I wonder if we can keep, it says the superintendent or designee will ensure that this policy is communicated to staff. And there were some other words omitted from that. But I wonder if we can revisit putting students in there as well, since particularly involving communication, really it should be the whole school, but specifically with middle school, and incorporating equity and diversity education within the curriculum. But I'm not sure how that falls legally.
We can make that change. I believe there was no specific recommendation from council regarding those wordings. We can also add back in the following words, and the community, as it will be posted on the website, which is making it available to the community.
I think that's great.
So, Dexter, can you modify to show those changes?
So, yes, so
And
can
we
you
will
just tell
adopt-
me again, we're adding back in?
Sure, the very bottom of page 4, we're adding back in the last sentence, the superintendent or designee will ensure that this policy is communicated to students, staff, and the community.
Got it. Do I have other comments or suggestions, Jocelyn?
So if you have it open and you go to page 2, what was struck was that class instructional activities and extracurricular programs shall foster respect for diversity. Can the policy committee remind everyone why extracurricular was struck?
Yes. That was our extracurricular programs are run by our PTA, not by the district. And therefore, we struck it as we don't have really control over them necessarily to specify that they shall be designed in that way. We can work with the PTA certainly, but in terms of putting it into district policy, that is my recollection from the committee meeting.
That's what
Does that sound right?
I agree. I just want to make sure everyone knew. That was my recollection too.
Okay.
We can certainly encourage the PTA to do it, but to write it into policy it just complicates it to have it written in. But it could be something that we work with.
I also think there was some question of if we were limiting it to cross-cultural and cross-racial interactions versus, a wider scope of equity and diversity.
Yep. I have, was that a hand, Kent?
No,
That was
just
scratch,
scratch.
okay. On page 4, there's this, at least for me, the third paragraph down, the Board of Ed and the superintendent will monitor and review the district's metrics and equity activities to determine the extent to which we're complying with this policy and the progress made. I think that this is an important keep, in a sense, it's just us making sure that we have some, and I think the equity strategic plan kind of asks us to make sure that we annually at a minimum, and we'll have a committee, ensuring that the policies are actually enforced. And so I wonder, especially that small part, if we might be able to keep it, and if not, what do you think the legal problem was?
Because it was redundant to the next sentence, which reads, the superintendent or designee will regularly report progress on the equity, inclusivity, diversity plans and outcomes. Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you. I believe it was struck because it's redundant to the superintendent or designees will regularly report progress on the equity, inclusivity, and diversity plans and outcomes. I think that was the only reason. We can add it back in.
Well, does anyone else, as you're reading that paragraph, feel like the first sentence is different and necessary? I agree they're similar. But monitoring is...
Well, I think my impression of that struck piece also is that it's not measurable, it's subjective. And so I'm not sure what the expectation is for that assessment. That would be my question.
Ken, a good point. That is what our attorney, the word metrics, is what will you specifically be using for metrics? And at this point, we don't know exactly how we will measure.
Right.
And some of this work may not be quantifiable and measurable, but to present it, and if there's a program that that we are engaging in, and to make sure there's reporting out on it. I think that's why we decided to keep the second part of the paragraph, but strike the first.
Yeah, and so that second part ensures that there will be continuous reporting, and we'll be looking to the strategic plan adopted from the equity committee to ensure that there's progress on it. Okay, so everyone feels fine with that?
I feel good about that.
Yeah. Okay, and one last one is, I guess there's two small ones. The last page, page 5. So it's related to the kind of communication of the policy. The policy is posted on the website, and I don't know why it had to not be published in the other ones that were listed. If we can just recall that, maybe legal had an idea. Why should it not be published in registration materials, parent and employee handbooks, and other appropriate publications? Is the website sufficient, for example, or why was it struck?
Yeah, again, that typically we don't include policies in student handbooks, and again, if you think of our primary grades, that was part of the discussion. Would the younger children really even be able to comprehend a lot of the language or most of the language? I do agree middle school students certainly could understand this, but in putting it into handbooks and publications, the attorney highlighted that as, that's a bit unusual. We usually don't send out policy. Policy is available, but not something that is sent out.
Right.
And to all the different constituent groups.
That makes
But
sense.
I mean, if the board wishes to do it, you could, but then the district must do that and must do that regularly.
It seems like then the handbooks, especially, that we're talking about, like, for example, the employee handbook, it can just reference, like, all board policies are posted on the website so that they know that there is the option to review them at that point. And it doesn't have to have this one policy pulled out into the handbook, for example.
Exactly.
Okay.
And even you might find, like, we have a policy on the code of conduct, but the code of conduct itself is a separate document.
Right.
So as the strategic plan develops for, that we adopted, and we continue to do this work, we may come up with something that is similar to that gets put in that's not policy.
Okay, so the last paragraph, policy enforcement, especially because I missed this last bit of the meeting. Any reason to strike it versus keep it in? What was legal's reasoning for that?
My recollection, Jocelyn, is how do you define, enforcing this policy? By adopting this policy, improving it, it is understood that, and it is explicit in here that it must be followed. She just didn't think it was necessary to say that the board directs the superintendent to enforce it, that is certainly any policy must be followed.
I've never seen a policy enforcement clause at the end of any board policy. So, but this was the draft from NISBA, so that's why it was in there. So, okay, it makes it clear that we're still going to enforce it. We don't have to say it because it's the obvious point of the policy. Okay.
It's stating the obvious, I guess, is
Okay.
what Chris pointed out.
Great. That was all my comments related to what was brought forth on this draft.
Do I have other comments or suggested changes at this point? Okay. Keep in mind, it's a living document. We can always go back and review policy again in committee and, of course, put it forth should we have changes, as this is an area that I know the state is addressing as well, and there may be changes coming forth in the next few months, years in this area. So at that point, I think with those changes, do you need me to do the motion again?
Nope, we have a motion on the floor.
All right, well then, all in favor of adopting this policy as amended, say aye.
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 Nays? Abstentions? All right. Congratulations on a new policy. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for discussing. Sorry to bring up all the questions.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
We spend a lot of time on this one in committee. It's fun to do it out in a group with everyone. So I appreciate everyone's energy on this. Next, we move on to CSE, CPSE recommendations. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District approve the Committee on Special Education, CSE, and the Committee on Preschool Special Education, CPSE, recommendations in student placements 17297, 17183, and 17522. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Abstentions? Nays? Okay. Sorry, switch the order on me there, Dustin. All right, at this time, we have finished new business, and we will now move on to public comment. I will remind everyone in attendance that public comment is intended for members of the community to speak openly and voice concerns in accordance with Policy 3220 of the Garrison Union Free School District. Any person wishing to speak shall comply with all provisions of this policy. Comments about specific school personnel or individual students is a violation of board policy. Concerns regarding students or personnel should be discussed privately with the superintendent or appropriate administrator. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes, and speakers are asked to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. The board will listen to comments but will not engage in dialogue. Any necessary follow-up will be noted and provided through the appropriate channel. Members of the public wishing to comment during meetings are, we're not on video conference anymore, so you're welcome to step up. Microphone. You have one? Okay, we have the microphone. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Barbara D'Alessio. Most of the students and family and staff know me as Miss D. I'm here for some concerns with regards to the 3 teacher aide positions that have been abolished. I want to thank the people that are here this evening. Some of them are parents, some of them are former teacher aides that are retired. And my concern is that we are having difficulty currently covering certain spots as far as coverage goes in the school during periods, whether it be recess, lunch, or flex times. We just got a resignation from a substitute teacher. We have 3 positions that are going to be eliminated, and I'm interested in knowing how those concerns are going to be addressed come September when the students come back into a building that is under construction, number 1. Number 2, we have students that are moving into middle school that have special needs, and I certainly understand the CSE process, but I have very strong concerns about those students making sure that they get the needs that they have. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Do I have other members of the public who wish to speak, please?
Good evening. Thank you all for your dedicated work. I know you do this for nothing, so I do appreciate it. My name is Loretto Padilla, and I'm a community member of Garrison. Been living here for over 30 years. I've been an advocate for our school in all that time also. My daughter flew by here K through 8. She graduated 2006. She went on to O'Neill, graduating this month from law school. I've been very involved with the school throughout the years, and most recently as a substitute. I have been assisting teachers and staff whenever and wherever needed for 5+ years. Tonight I am here in support of 2 positions. They were recently eliminated. I am not sure why they have been eliminated. One can say that having 8 aides in a school of this size with this many students is an overreach. Be that as it may, the issue that I have are the 2 people, the 2 aides that have been eliminated and asked to leave because they are no longer needed. Their services are no longer needed as of June 2021. I do not know either of these aides personally outside of school. I do not socialize with them outside of school, but I am a witness to their many, many years of dedicated service within the school. These are seasoned aides with exemplary qualifications and experience. Both are also within reach of their 20-year retirement status. Pardon?
At the meeting.
I'm just saying aides. I didn't say names, right?
Referencing their tenure or other things are not allowed as well.
Okay. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Can I speak about salary? Neither of their salary.
No, we cannot get into specifics about positions.
Okay.
I'm sorry. As a
My
budget
question
line
is, I get that. Okay. I will stop because I'm not really sure where and what I can say, exactly what. But my problem with this, of these particular 8 having to leave the school because they were asked to leave, they were no longer needed, their services are no longer needed. Cannot say that either?
Yeah, the policy, maybe reread the policy. The policy is specifically we cannot discuss specific personnel matters, and that is what you're doing, even though you're not mentioning them by name. So this is specifically a
Okay.
personnel matter, and there's a different course of action if someone would like to voice a concern.
All right. Well, I think everybody gets the gist of what I am saying. I appreciate your being open to it, the little that I could say. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have further public comment? Okay. I'm going to now close public comment, move on to board member comment. I'm going to go down the list today.
Okay.
Jocelyn Aticello, do you have any further comment this evening?
Welcome, Kent. Thanks for passing the budget to the community. Thanks for the public who's come out tonight and voiced concerns. And that's all. That's all.
That's all? Okay. David?
It's an excuse to take the mask off. We've just been through a very abnormal year, and it's maybe an opportunity to take stock of how, as we enter a more normal year, how effectively we're communicating, and this is addressed to Carl and Allison and to the board, we're communicating to the community and to parents exactly what our aspirations are. And I think we do a pretty good job of communicating, but I think that I think there's an opportunity here to bend over backwards. There are some very exciting ideas that you've got, Carl, and about what the school's going to be like starting in September and what's going to be happening here. I think that there are ways, just in terms of communications, of figuring out how to take initiatives that really bring the community into the vision which you're creating for, which you and others are creating for the school. I don't think it's normally done in most school districts, but I think we can do that, and I think we should think about how we could do that. I just really want to start a dialogue on that.
Are you talking about communicating or involving the community more?
I can't hear a thing.
I know, what the heck?
We're talking about communicating or involving the community?
Oh, I'm really talking, well, I mean, I certainly would hope that it would lead to some involvement as well, but I'm really talking about clearly communicating what the aspirations are for the next school year that are different from what they were 2 years ago.
David, I agree. I think there's a real opportunity here. Today starts, the beginning with the approval of the budget. All the wheels are in motion to move forward. The one big initiative is the K-8 environmental education position. So we are currently working out, now that it's officially approved, what that model looks like. We are working with the environmental education department over at BOCES. We are also seeking input from our faculty. And we're having ongoing conversations. So that vision, you said earlier, certainly there is my vision, but it's something that I believe really has to be a collective. You need input from your staff for it to be successful. For example, even in the interview process, we are involving our teachers, our faculty. They need to have a voice in who that next leader of that initiative will be. So yes, we are very excited. We are talking about things like pursuing a Green Ribbon Award, which is an award for schools who are have a sound alignment of environmental education, also have a solid health and nutrition program, and are also doing things that are environmentally safe and initiatives, for example, with your facilities, things that we are doing, even this project. What we're doing with our HVAC system, that would all qualify. So there are exciting things ahead, and I agree. I think we certainly can always do more to get that word out to the community and involve them in the discussion. So point well taken, and we will continue to have that dialogue, and we'll get more communication out in the months ahead.
Related to David's point, can I just, because I know we have a communications consultant, Ms. Slipton. Do you think that is, what have her findings been related to how we communicate to the community, or what is her suggestion?
Social media, and you've been seeing more of that. What we've talked about, I mean, one big step in the right direction, I think, was upgrading the website. The visuals, we had a lot of discussion about what we were showing on the website. So for example, are they posed pictures of children smiling and staff, and that there's a time and a place for that, but we really wanted to show the great teaching and learning that we wanted to capture that. And if you look at the visuals, there may be a few posed pictures, but what we think is more important is to convey through those visuals the great educational experiences that are happening. And we worked hard to capture that. And that's all part of your communication, but then certainly newsletters, outreach. Our principal is doing a weekly that has visuals, has summary of all the events that are happening and important information for parents. It's receiving like well over 200 views every week. So that would indicate to me that nearly every parent is reading. We have 220 students, so we're very pleased with that, and that has increased steadily to the point where now it's over 200 views weekly. So I see nods, so I assume most of you have been following that. But I think we always have to look for more opportunities to communicate the great things that are happening. So we'll be talking and meeting on that, and certainly come up with a plan for the upcoming school year.
Thank you.
I mean, I think just stepping out from the business community, that kind of engagement on an email is a real indicator that you have an audience eager for more. So I think what David said really applies.
Thank you.
Perhaps, I know we have a scheduled presentations coming up for the next month, but as we look ahead, perhaps a communications presentation as we schedule further out might be something that's of interest to the board as well. Like what we're doing on communications, a presentation to the board, similar to what we're going to have upcoming on math and other things. I'll add that to the calendar. All right. David, did you have any further comment? No. Okay. Now you're Courtney.
No comment. Welcome, Ken.
Ken, welcome. Do you have a comment?
I just want to thank the community, for their support and in passing the budget, and very excited to work with this group and ready to get to work and make things better.
Thank you. Matt?
I want to welcome Kent as well. Congrats. I'm very excited to work together. At the risk of being a broken record, I think as the country starts to feel a sense of optimism and excitement, we need to continue to remember that our entire student body is unvaccinated, or I guess maybe some of our middle schoolers are now allowed to get vaccinated. Some of it's not true, but certainly our K through 5 population remains unvaccinated, so that we really have to sort of keep our foot on the pedal in terms of our attention being paid to protocol and safety, and remember that we're not out of the woods yet, especially with our younger population. So I don't want to be a downer amid all the anticipation that we all feel for the end of this experience, but I do want to say that schools in particular remain a particularly vulnerable spot in the country right now as we get through these woods. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. And I will just say again, thank you to the Facilities Committee for the work, and welcome Kent. Excited to work with you. Madeline, we're excited to have you back in July and appreciate your willingness to keep working with us through the Facilities Committee. That is all I have for this evening. We do not have an executive session scheduled for this evening, so I shall move on to adjournment. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District adjourns the regular meeting of May 19th, 2021. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Abstentions? Nays? Great. 8:21, folks.